All right, well, welcome everyone today. I'm so pleased to have so many people on, and as I indicated, we're expecting a few more folks. Thank you to those that were on a little early and were able to share some information in the chat. It was excellent. So today we're going to be talking about preparing your grab and go file and organizing all of your important papers. So we've got a lot of information to go over. My name is Sara Croymans. I'm the photo on the right-hand side of your screen. I'm an extension educator here with University of Minnesota Extension, located out of Morris, our regional office there, which is located in the west central part of the state, for those of you not from Minnesota. My colleague Sam Roth, whose photo is on the left-hand side of the screen, will be hopefully joining us in a little while. She had a meeting conflict, so we'll be hopping on in a little bit. So that means I get to work with the technology today, which isn't always my strong point, but I am going to do the very best I can. We're going to have you respond to a poll. Yep, if you've been on any of our webinars before, you have seen this poll. Are you here for personal use, professional, or both personal or professional use? So go ahead. Looks like we've got almost 80 people on the webinar so far. So I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes so folks can respond. All right. Thank you for sharing. So I'm going to share these results. Looks like we've got a pretty even split between folks being on for personal use and folks being on for professional use. And as I saw in the chat earlier, we had folks from attorneys' offices. I saw folks from social services, quite a variety of places. So that is excellent. Well, today we are going to look again at what to include in that grab and go file. We're going to look at some strategies and tools to get organized. We're going to discuss some guidelines for important papers, for organizing them. We're going to talk briefly about how to replace some of those important papers. So if something gets lost or destroyed, we'll talk about that. And we're going to share a resource so you can create a roadmap and hopefully communicate and have some conversations with folks in your family about important papers. So time for a quick chat. Let's go back to the chat bubble or the chat feature there. When are some potential times when someone may need to evacuate their home quickly? I think you'll come up with some good ideas here. Go ahead and share those in the chat. Yes, fire, natural disasters, fire, flood, oh, gas leaks, flood, fire, carbon monoxide. Yep. Yeah, that's a threat at this time of the year, isn't it? Tornadoes, thank you, Mary. Illnesses, right? You've come up with some good, oh, thank you, Claire. Domestics, home invasion, death, natural disasters. Coworker had to, leave their home when they found toxic mold. Family crisis, health like a heart attack, all excellent ideas, and there's probably more. Here's just a super quick shot of a variety of headlines in the newspaper, right? Hundreds evacuated because of wildfire, 2 dams fail, floods, just almost anything, tornado warnings. Right? There are so many reasons why we might have to quickly leave our home. And then there are other instances that are beyond our control that might require us to leave our homes. Civil unrest. When George Floyd was murdered this last spring in the Minneapolis area, there were several neighborhoods in the metro area that evacuated and left their homes for a period of time as well. One of my good friends' daughter lives there, and I said, did she grab her important papers? And she said, I don't think she did, but that would be a case. Someone mentioned in the chat the domestics, and so violence in the home might be another reason. Others, thank you, Shirley. Zombies, hopefully we don't experience any of those, but it seems like there's always more reasons to evacuate. So typically when we think of emergency preparedness, we think of putting together an emergency kit, and we think of water for everyone in the family for 72 hours. We think of flashlights with batteries and some food and a change of clothes and medication, all very important. And we want you to have that type of emergency kit put together as well. And you can find information at theready.gov /kit. They've got some excellent information there. But today we're going to be talking about the grab and go, or that red file. And then we're going to go further and talk about those other resources, or those other important papers that we need to take a look at. I had shared before we started, so I'm not sure if folks were on or not. We will be sending a follow-up email a few days after the webinar, and in that will be a link to a recording for the webinar. So if you want to watch it again or share it with others, you can surely do that. But we'll also have a PDF of the PowerPoint slides, so you'll have access to all of these links. And we will also, in that follow-up email, highlight some of the links in the text of the email. So no worries about having to grab some of these. So the grab and go, or the red file, it's exactly what it sounds like. It should be convenient, and it should have the essential information that you need in a crisis. And so oftentimes people say, well, what should it be in, right? What's the vessel or the container that we should look at? And I saw in the chat earlier, people were referencing 3-ring binders or other types of resources where they had their information. So be creative in figuring out what works for you. So a file case or a binder, but having it be waterproof. So maybe you have an accordion file and you stick it in a big 2-gallon Ziploc bag that is definitely waterproof. This should be small enough to put into a backpack or a travel bag. And store it in a safe or convenient place, right? Maybe it's in the front hall closet, right? We want it out of sight, but easy to grab, right? Because this grab and go file is going to have a lot of really critical personal information. We don't just want it sitting out, because it could be a gold mine if an identity thief or somebody got a hold of that. All right. Marlene says she has hers in a suitcase on wheels by the front door. Ah, excellent, excellent. Do you have it stuck in the front closet so it's not sitting right out there? And Jay Parkhurst, you will get that email because you registered. So no worries about getting that email. So what should go in that grab and go or red file? So we're going to be looking in just a little bit at what we're calling a roadmap, which is a master of all information. So it's a nice compilation of all important numbers and people and that kind of stuff. So you'd want a copy of that roadmap to go in there. You'll want a copy of prescriptions, name, dosage, pharmacy, all of that information, so that if you need to refill prescriptions, you have that. A safe deposit box key or a safe combination, any of those computer password, any of those passwords. We seem to live on passwords these days. And I saw several people referencing where that they would grab those passwords. Emergency cash. Let's put in the chat, how much do you think would be good to have for emergency cash, right? We're having to leave our house quickly. If it's a flood or a tornado or what have you, maybe the banks and credit unions are closed. Maybe the ATMs aren't working. How much do you think would be good to have? 500, 2,000, 500, 500, 500 to 1,000, oh, 2,500. That's a lot of cash. Yep, right. 3,000, 1,000. Someone has 1,000 in small bills, right? We don't have a definite number to tell people, you know, at a minimum, I think I would have $200 in the smaller bills. So thank you, Jay Parkhurst, for sharing that, right? Because if the ATMs are not working and the banks and the credit unions are closed and everyone's trying to buy gas and groceries, those retailers aren't going to be able to handle a lot of $100 bills, right? So by having some smaller bills, that would be really good. And that just really reinforces for me that we need to have this grab and go case somewhere safe, right? Easy to grab, but safe, because that, I know in my home, we've got a lot of people coming in and out, and I trust the majority of them, right? I trust most of them, but we still want to have that pretty safe. So that emergency cash, and then relevant personal, financial, and legal documents. And in the next slide, we'll look at what those are. But I would really, the debate is copies versus originals, right? And you'll have to make that decision yourself. I would probably go with copies in my grab and go bag of these very important documents. And I actually did a webinar with Joseph Big B from FEMA a couple weeks ago, and his main message, and he really emphasized for people, always have a backup, right? So not just photocopies, but have it on a jump drive or a flash drive. And maybe somewhere else. I saw in the chat someone had said they had copies of things both at home and at the cabin, right? So they've got it in a couple different places. Hopefully both aren't hit by a tornado or a flood, but always have that information in a secondary format. All right, so what kind of information should we have in that grab and go or red file? I've put photocopies in red, but you need to make that choice if you want to have originals or photocopies, but I would probably go with photocopies. Birth certificates, marriage and divorce documentation, of course, your driver's license and other wallet cards are going to be in your wallet or purse, and you'll probably grab that right along with your grab and go file. Copies of your will or trust documents, power of attorney. Someone had mentioned earlier, recent tax returns. Excellent idea, right? Because if there is disaster assistance and other things available, you're going to have to produce a couple of years worth of tax returns, those passports, military discharge papers. So all of those things that are really important to you, I would encourage having in that grab and go file. Questions or thoughts about the grab and go file? We're going to shift gears here a little bit. Oh yeah, Kelly, thank you. Scan and email the resources to yourself. Excellent. How often do you review the file to ensure it's up to date? Annually? You know, well, it depends, right? For many of us, annually is probably pretty good, but anytime you have one of those large life events, right? I get married, I get divorced, I have kids, my medications change, right? Anytime we have one of those big events, that would be a trigger to go back and update that. So at least annually. All right, great question. Thanks, David. All right, so chat. What are some of the benefits of having organized records? Why do we even want to do that? It's not easy. It's a little bit of work, right? So why? Jay Parkhurst said she reviews hers every 6 months. Yep. Feeling of security. Thanks, Tabitha. Yep, you feel secure when you've got your stuff organized, got your ducks in a row. Avoid heavy legal fees for your family. That would be one benefit as well. Other benefits of being organized. Yes, we will be sending, Carrie, we will be sending out a link for the recording and all of the resources. Peace of mind. Yes, Linda, definitely. Making life return to normal or that new normal as soon as possible, right? Things can get done quicker and easier if you've got the information. Linda, you are talking with family members, right? So others know where it is as well. Kelly, yes, it can help eliminate some of that stress. Lots of great ideas. So you guys hit on almost all of these. You know, information would be easily accessible when you need it, right? So you don't have to be digging for it. You can figure out what's missing. Once you know what you have, you may figure out, oh, I'm missing a tax return, or I'm missing military discharge papers, some of that. Yes, the healthcare directives definitely could be added as well to that list. Being organized can also help you save money, right? Because if we have to replace documents, we may have to be paying fees for that. They can provide documentation or proof of transactions. Definitely, it's easier to cope in the event of an emergency if we have the tools or the resources, the documentation that we need. Many of you talked about that peace of mind, both for yourself and others. And it could assist a personal representative of your estate, and you all have mentioned several others. So let's take a look at these other types of resources. We're going to do one more poll. This is our final poll. Here we go. What is your preferred method for organizing? You can pick more than one, multiple choice here. Give you just a few more, another minute here. Okay. Got 70 responding. Wait just another 30 seconds here as more people respond. Okay, I am going to share the results here. Oh, 85% of folks have a file cabinet. A few people, 5%, good deal on the shoebox, right? An inexpensive form. Drawers and the pile on the corner of the kitchen cabinet are a little bit lower there. Almost half of you use your computer to organize papers. Oh, 1%. We had one person that said they used an app. Nobody used the garbage. I think the garbage is a good tool, right? It cleans out some of the clutter. And then what are some of those others? Fireproof safe, thank you, Mary Lee. The jump drive, yep, we should have added those to the list as well. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Whoops, and there, let me share that with you. There it is. All right, so that file cabinet is the big one. All right. And we'll go to the next slide here. All right. So once we have that grab and go bag together and we've got it in a safe, convenient spot, then we're going to organize the rest of our papers that are still needing to be organized. First step is to choose a place or establish a work area. All right. Pretty common sense stuff, right? It should be comfortable, convenient. For some families, if you want to be near the action in your house, you might have a little office area or organizing place near the family action, so in the family room. Or if you want a really quiet place, maybe you do it in the corner of a bedroom, because not everybody is blessed with an office space. Or if you have small children and you need to be near them, then maybe you have a designated space that's off limits to the children where you can do that organizing. Of course, good lighting is so important. I find that as my eyes are aging. And then of course, a comfortable chair is really important as well. In addition, it's a good idea to have a work surface, whether it's a desk or a table, or even as simple as a card table. A telephone, the wastebasket or the garbage, I think, is an amazing tool, and a shredder. I want to see if y'all can find the reactions button. There should be a spot where you see reactions, or there might be 3 dots with a more. And if you go to reactions, give me a thumbs up if you have a shredder in your home. How many people have shredders? If you're able to find that reaction button, give me a heads up. Thank you. I'm seeing a few thumbs up there. Shredders are amazing tools because we don't want to just be throwing very important information into the garbage, right? Because there's a risk of identity theft there in scams and things. So having a shredder is a good idea. We have gotten into the habit of giving shredders as wedding and shower gifts. So think about that as you have the opportunity to gift those to others who might just be starting off. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory, right? Having that file cabinet or a file box, pencils, papers, envelopes, just the things that we need, file folders or labels, sorting boxes or envelopes for things in and out and to be filed. And then of course that computer or laptop. And if you have a scanner, that is extremely helpful. But you know, today with our smartphones as well, you can snap pictures and email them to yourselves too. So you don't always need that scanner to do that. And then flash drives as well are really important. And there's no one perfect plan. There's no one perfect way to do this. Figure out a system that works best for you and try that. So who should be doing this in a household, right? It can be shared by a couple different people or one person, but either way, that communication is really important. In our home, I am the main organizer and filer and coordinator, but my husband does know where to find that information in case something were to happen to me. So be sure you share that with a significant other or with a parent or an adult child or a sibling or somebody, because at some point in time, something is probably going to happen to each and every one of us. And it would be extremely helpful if somebody else knew where my important information was. So again, at a minimum, inform someone of that roadmap location. Again, that roadmap we're going to look at here. Thank you to those of you on the registration who responded to the question, you know, on the registration form. And I had that marked as mandatory. And some people are like, I don't have any questions. And I was like, that's fine. But I was amazed that lots of people came up with some questions. So thank you. I did change that requirement for later registrations. But 2 questions came in on the registrations. And they were related to who should be doing this, right? You know, so we typically think of an adult, right? I'm not going to say how old I am, but I'm a working woman, right? Been in the workforce for several years. I've got a few more years to go, right? I should probably be organizing my papers. But somebody asked, what about they were older and they were a little bit worried or concerned or thinking that they needed to communicate and share information with their adult children, because again, at some point, they may not be able to manage their own finances and everything again. So, or to continue doing that. So it is very important as people start to age that they share that information with significant others who can assist along the way or pick that up at some point. The other question that I received was at the other end. And the question went something like, at what point do I give documents to my young adult children, right? So they may be launching, they may be going to college, they may be graduating from post-secondary education, starting their first job, right? So it really depends at what point you start sharing that information with folks. My young ones, they probably needed their birth certificate when they got their driver's license, right? So they got their birth certificate and then they brought it back home and we put it in that safe place where we had that. When they applied for their first job, they needed that social security card. So again, they received that social security card, but at that point when they were 15, 16, 17, having that job, it came back into the family filing system. But what about when they start working and they're filing taxes, right? When my kids went off to college, I got them a file tote, right? And my youngest, who's 23, was home doing his taxes the other day, and he brought the tote out. It wasn't organized with the file folders I'd given him to put it in there, but he had the box and he'd been putting past tax returns in there. So even just the simple act of having one place. And so working with your young adults, depending upon where they are in that launching process, work with them on that. All right, yes, Denise, thank you. It's important for to have someone you trust in your nuclear family know where all of that information is. Oh, Sherry, thank you for sharing that. One document, we're going to be talking about household inventory. She's talking about serial numbers off significant things. And I've heard stories of theft and not having those. So excellent conversation. Okay, so we've got a place, we've got people involved with it. Now we need to get started. And so again, think about a basic outline of file categories, and we have a link to a document that'll help you get started, and you'll see those on future slides here. But it'll make sense once you start working on it, right? Based on your family situation, what types of files you might want or need to have. So you could label general folders or boxes for sorting. We encourage you start small, right? Again, this is a big task. You could maybe do it in an afternoon. It depends upon how big your pile is, or it might take a weekend, or maybe you just start small, set up the system, and then come back to it next Saturday afternoon as well to gradually work through that backlog. All right, so here is that roadmap that I've been talking about, and there's a link at the bottom of the slide, and that will also be in the follow-up email that we send you. We are working on making this a fillable form. Right now you can print it out and fill it in, or you could simply look at it and start filling in on an Excel spreadsheet or other type of form, but we're gonna get this into a fillable. And so this roadmap is an index for all of your important papers. It's kind of like that index. So what do we have, and where is the information? And so it's gonna say, where is all of that? It's gonna have names and numbers. It's going to be the one document for the most critical information, and it makes it easy for you and for others. And so I think it's like an 8-page document. And so it asks for these 12 categories of information. Now, who do I have insurance policies with? I've got auto, I've got homeowners, I've got health insurance, right on down the line. Who's my agent? What's their phone number, right? So all of that information. My vehicles, what kind of vehicles, what are the VIN numbers, the year and the make and all of that. So it's a really nice spot to collect all of the details, right? The credit accounts, right? What's the credit number, my credit card number, and what's that 800 number on the back if I need to cancel it in case it gets stolen. So this roadmap is an excellent tool to collect all of that information. And of course, you want to update it as needed. Now I'm back to the garbage, because I think that's a very valuable tool. So I encourage people, when the mail comes in, maybe you're standing by the garbage, or you make a pile, right, of things that can go into the garbage. And then I always have a pile of things that needs to come down to my office to be shredded. But do that right away so the piles don't accumulate. You can also request to get your name removed from junk mail lists. And so you can do that by contacting the mail preference service. And by just taking care of these things, we greatly reduce our risk of identity theft. All right, so there are just a few spots where you could keep information. And originally our list had only 3. The carry it with you, the wallet or the purse or the billfold, the home files, that safe deposit box or safe. And then we've added that digital format, right? Because that's the world that we are in for sure. And so we're going to take a little deeper dive on these 4 areas. All right. So the carry it with you. We used to have this titled wallet, and there's been discussion with my colleagues on, do people still use the word wallet or billfold, or I think I have a wallet or a billfold in my purse as well too. But so we're calling it the carry it with you. What do you have with you when you're running errands and going in and out? So of course you have that personal ID and that driver's license. Hopefully you've got some emergency contact information in there. You may have some credit cards, debit cards, your Medicare or health insurance card, a blood type card. I've got my Red Cross card in there. If you're an organ donor, it's probably a good idea to carry that, because chances are if you're in an accident, you would need that if it was needed. And then any special information for medical sorts of things, that should also be in your wallet. and the name and phone of your family physician. And then you'll see the last one is something not to carry, and that is your social security card. And we had a conversation the other day with some colleagues, and everyone was saying, yeah, my mom and my dad, they still carry their social security cards because back in the day, that's what they needed to prove identification at several locations. Well, now that's not the case. So we recommend do not carry a copy of your social security card. Do not even keep the original or the copy in your wallet or your purse. So that's what we would suggest carrying with you. And then to go one step further, we encourage you to photocopy everything that's in your wallet or your purse, right? It provides the necessary information for cancellations or replacements. Have 2 to 3 copies, fronts and backs of things. One could go in your grab and go file, one set of copies, and the other could go in your main set of files, or that safe deposit box. You could also give a copy to a trusted friend or relative, or a digital copy as well. But again, this information is really important. So we want to be very careful with that. I'm going to pause just a minute. Any questions or thoughts about what we carry with you? Does the Social Security office still tell people to carry it with them, Catherine? Wow, we tell them the opposite. So yeah, great. Sam, I see you are on, so I'm gonna have you unmute yourself here.
Good. Hello, everybody.
Great. This is Sam Roth, my colleague from the Scott and Carver area of the University of Minnesota. Sam, do you want to take us into the home files and then pass it back in a little while? I'll let you.
Yep, that sounds good.
All right, here we go.
So our second area is our home files, and what should we have there? A majority of our important papers will be kept in our files at home. So think about organizing your files as you would use your records. Some papers in your home files you'll need more frequently, such as your bank account information, credit card receipts and bills, loan agreements, and some medical information. And we call that section our current files. And so those should be located, typically in the front of your filing cabinet or in your desk, or if you use boxes, the most accessible box. Many of the papers in your home files are also not used often, and those are our permanent files. They can be stored in less accessible drawers or boxes. Examples include your education records, file each household member's diplomas and transcripts separately, employment records, health benefit information, so your insurance coverage and contact information or Medicare benefits, and keep as long as the benefits are current. Also your health records, file records for each of your household members separately, and update as needed and store as long as the information is current. Dead storage is for records used very infrequently. So examples are old tax records, records of real estate that you've sold, and this information can be stored in a labeled box or in an attic or dry basement. Our third storage option is our safe deposit box or home safe. Sarah's having fun flipping through. So again, this should be used to store anything that is impossible or costly to replace. If using a home safe, do check on its ability to withstand extreme heat in case of a fire to avoid the possibility of the contents becoming a pile of ashes. So your personal information is those social security card, your insurance policy, passports, everything you see there. Property information is another one. So your deeds and abstracts, vehicle titles, burial plot documents. Also stored in your safe deposit box or your home safe is your financial information. So a lot of the stuff dealing with your finances, bank information, investment information, and all that kind of stuff. And the kind of last one is your legal documents. So your wills, citizenship papers, certificates, etc. All of these of your roadmap, a copy of your roadmap documents should or could be in your box or safe, and it will provide much more information all in one document. So now we're going to talk a little bit about a safe deposit box versus a home safe. So, think about the pros and cons. Is it fire safe, and to what degree it is? Is it theft safe? Is it water safe if you live in an area that has flooding, or you store it underneath the bathroom and the pipes burst? You might want it to be water safe. Is it convenience? Is it something that you are able to get to, able to, to when I think about boxes and how many people will store them like way up high in an attic and then not being able to get them down, we don't want that with our safe. We want to be able to have it accessible. And then, are there any other concerns? What are other items in your safe? I know some people will store guns or other things in safes. And so do you have two safes, or one safe, or a safe deposit box, a home safe? All of those are options. So think those through before you go and decide which one to get. And maybe the option is to have both of them. Our last option, or our last one, is our digital copies. As Sara said earlier, most of us are using computers and have jump drives or thumb drives. I know somebody suggested emailing yourself. You can also put things in the cloud. So it's pretty much a hard disk available online. Some examples are Google Drive, Box, OneDrive, Amazon Cloud Drive, or Dropbox. And you really want to think about the pros and cons of each option, of what you feel the most comfortable with and what you feel the most secure with. Sara mentioned Joseph from FEMA and said, best to have a plan B and possibly a plan C. So typically our digital copy is, one of those plans A, B, or C, along with our permanent files. So as we think about what do we keep, it kind of goes into the categories of personal and family, property, financial, or legal. And with personal and family, we want information on all the family members, self, spouse, children, grandchildren, parents, significant others, who and what you deem important. So this will vary from person to person or family to family. You'll also want to think about, childcare information, who the daycare provider is, regular babysitters, emergency situation care providers, and that stuff. Any health information, so our health history for past and current members, immunizations, major illnesses, surgeries, advance directives, or living wills for people. You also want insurance policies for home, vehicle, health, long-term care, and include the contact information for the different agencies. And if you do have a pet, your veterinarian, feeding, boarding, sitters, all of that, your funeral plans. So all of those, to organize, fall underneath the personal and family. For property information, that relates to our property deeds and abstracts and our motor vehicle records. You want to include your cars, vans, trucks, motorcycles, tractors, trailers, boats, any type of vehicle. Include information about your make and model, as well as your vehicle titles and bills of sales. Those are essential to be able to transfer. And then any equipment warranties, guarantees, and instructions. So make sure to keep these for proof of date of purchase and to determine service and parts guaranteed. Keep your instruction books. Staple the purchase receipt to the inside cover of that book. Keep these as long as you own the equipment. One convenient way is keep such books in a 3-ring binder with plastic sleeves or pockets. Most of your property information will be stored in your permanent file, except for deeds, abstracts, and titles should be in a safe deposit box.
Sam, that was a great idea to staple the receipts inside of the instruction booklets. I have found that receipts oftentimes fade over time, so I've gotten into the habit of photocopying those and stapling that photocopy in there so it doesn't fade.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So in the chat, we just, what items in your home do you want or need proof of ownership and why? I see we have quite a bit of information about, wanting to know about the digital. So you can password protect digital files. You can also password protect jump drives and flash drives. I can't tell you how to do it, but I know you can. And, when we mentioned like the Dropbox and Google Drive, to see what kind of protection they each offer and what you feel comfortable with. And as somebody said, multiple factor authentication is typically more beneficial. So, so in the chat we had, somebody say guns, that you would want proof of ownership. We had somebody else mention that earlier. Any large money items to replace or prove ownership. Any expensive binoculars or scopes. Yep. Title and deeds. Also like jewelry, expensive jewelry, you would want that in. Everything in my renter's insurance, that is very good. Insurance policies, home titles, yep, all of you are understanding it. So thanks for that chat. So now we're going to move to property records. And for this one, a lot of times we don't get around to inventorying all of our furnishings, equipment, and household goods. So we will be including a handout called Household Inventory to be, and I think this one's fillable, right, Sarah? And so you'll be able to go through and make a list and put in the cost and date if you know it, and record serial numbers and all that stuff. Also make sure you inventory, sporting or gardening equipment in a garage or storage area, because those might exceed the value of items in your home. Also inventory your valuable jewelry, antiques, collectibles, musical instruments, coins, precious gems, or other property that may appreciate in value. Photograph or videotape your furnishings and equipment in each room of your house and your garage or storage areas to provide further description for your inventory. It's valuable because it helps us determine the amount of homeowners or renters insurance to purchase. If you have a theft, fire, or disaster, it will help you prove your property worth and ownership. And an inventory is also used to determine the value of non-cash assets for a net worth statement. These inventories should be in your permanent file, and update this list yearly and place a copy in your safe deposit box for home safe. So here's an example of the fillable form that you'll have a link to. And as we said, it includes, item, manufacturer, model, date purchase, all that kind of stuff that you will need to know. And you can do as many pages as you need.
And there's been some discussion in the chat box too about photographing and taking videos. Excellent way to back up the written information. I encourage having both. I suppose you could take your video camera, your phone video, and walk around your house, but you would like to be beneficial to have those serial numbers and some more details. But having both would be really great.
Mm-hmm. Great. So financial records should be stored in your current files, including your account information from financial institutions. Keep your bank or credit union statements for tax purposes, your savings or certificate of deposit statements. You'll also want to be your bills to pay. So as you are receiving them, open them and place them in the file. And many people choose to put unpaid bills in a more visible file as a reminder to be paid. So not permanently putting them away so we don't forget to pay them. If you forget to pay bills on time, record it on the calendar. We don't want that to happen. Also your credit card and debit information, keep a list of names and addresses. Credit card statements and receipts should clean this file yearly. You don't need to keep them for 7-8 years, just a year. And like canceled checks, save receipts needed for inventories or tax purposes. And any earning records should be useful if you're changing employment or involved in a legal action. You also, in your permanent file, want to keep your credit reports and account records so you can compare those from year to year, and your contracts, notes, investments, and tax information. So when we're talking about investments, if you own mutual funds, stocks, or bonds, these records should have a separate file on each account. Stocks and mutual funds require some detailed record keeping for tax purposes. You'll also want to monitor their status for potential changes or questions, and that should be stored in your permanent files. The slide provides some information of what you should keep in your binder or file folders. You'll also want to list the beneficiary of each investment. And if you need more detailed information, consult your tax or investment advisor.
There's been some discussion in the chat about paying bills electronically, and many of us receive many bills electronically, so we don't even get those in the mail, which is excellent, right? It helps reduce the clutter. I know my bank statement, I don't get that in the mail anymore. I have to go online and get that, and my bank allows me to access a couple years worth of those. So that really helps, right? By having that online storage with those companies. So that helps us with our planning here a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of receipts are now electronic too. So having a way to, making an email, a folder in your email to put all of those in there, printing off the ones you need for tax purposes. And so just thinking through that instead of just forgetting about it, that would be not a good thing. So legal documents are typically kept in two places. As noticed previously, in a safe deposit box or a home safe are the preferred location for official certificates and records, your birth and death certificates of your family, marriage records, divorce decrees, adoption papers, military records, social security card. All of these documents should be kept indefinitely. And remember that the original copy of your will or trust should be stored in a safe deposit box, home safe, or your attorney's office, or it could be in the attorney's office, and then you have a copy at your home. And tell your people who are members of your will or who have to do things in your will or trust or your healthcare directive that they are those people, so they let them know where the documents are. Sara talked about who to talk to and that kind of stuff, and there's no emotion as finding out you're somebody's healthcare person and you never knew that. So give them a heads up. So those are legal documents where they should be kept. So, how long do we keep papers? Decisions can be difficult. Some of us like to be able to look back on, 20 years of history. But really it's anything that's difficult to replace and will have a future meaning should be kept. So legal documents such as birth certificates take time and money to replace. So make sure those types are records are a priority in your filing and storage. Most are kept indefinitely, and date all the information so you know if it's the latest copy or not, and then review, as we said, the files and discard any items that are outdated. And again, if items are difficult or costly to replace, it is a priority to save those. And I did just have somebody said that wills should also be recorded with the county. That's good to know. A little bit more about property and ownership records. Ownership titles and deeds should be kept in your safe deposit box. Records of repairs, additions, or remodeling should be kept in your permanent home files. Insurance policies should be stored in permanent home files, and property and vehicle insurance should be kept for the duration of the policy or until the property is sold. And personal liability, life and health and disability insurance policies should be kept until the policy expires and until all claims are settled. So what about our tax records? Tax records should be stored in our permanent files for at least 3 years. If income was underreported, the IRS may go back through 6 years of returns. Tax records are useful in divorce and other legal situations if financial history is needed. Therefore, some people store their tax returns, but not the deductions and worksheets. Those can go into debt storage indefinitely. So if you do need to replace your important papers, and you find, or if you are starting to organize and you find that some are missing, or if you have a disaster such as fire, flood, or storms, destroying them, to some places to check in your county courthouse should have records of where the event occurred, as such as your birth, death, marriage, or divorce. State and federal agents or federal agencies, you can receive your social security card, license, immigration documents, military records, passports, etc. Financial institutions where you've banked should have your accounts and investment information. Your employer should have your income, deductions, and benefit plans, retirement accounts. And if you did give copies to family and friends, they hopefully have those copies. We will be sending the handout called Replacing Your Important Papers, and Sara did link that into the chat as well. That has details with the websites and other information that might be helpful. So the important thing is to start now. We've covered lots of information today, and so now it's your time to start. So make sure to make a plan. Again, organize your record keeping space, sort your documents into appropriate file folders, and then replace any missing items you have. Plan that time and complete your roadmap. Make your inventory. Don't forget to take pictures and video. Update your records at least annually. January to April is a time of year that many people work on record organization as they do their taxes. Others prefer to use holiday time or stay-at-home vacation time to get organized. It's also important to communicate with others in case of an emergency. Someone else can quickly and easily find the necessary documents or papers or will know who else to call. So do you have any questions?
There's one question that came to me. What about expired passports? Should we destroy those?
Well, if you haven't, so I believe you have a full year to be able to get your passport. And so if it hasn't been in that year, it's a lot easier if you have that old passport to get your new one. But then, yeah, when it is, I don't know what the official one is. I would want to keep it because it has my stamps in it.
I would definitely go to, I would
We'll
Google
look into that.
a good source on that one if anyone else knows.
Oh, somebody said, don't they put a hole in the old one? I don't know.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up. So that is a great question.
So we do have, if about half of you said you were participating for professional purposes. And so if you would like a certificate of participation, we do not have formal CEUs or CEs, but we can provide you a certificate of participation. So go ahead and email me and I will get that sent out to you in the next week or so. My email will also be in the follow-up email, but go ahead and do that and we'll get that sent out to you. We do have a few more webinars scheduled in this round in our Finding Balance series. We've got a great one coming up next week on the 24th on mental well-being in the midst of isolation. On March 4th, who gets grandma's yellow pie plate? That's a popular one on passing on non-titled property. So how do we get rid of those pie plates and things? Advanced care planning, we mentioned that just real briefly with our records coming up. And then when it's family, financial exploitation of older adults is happening in mid-March. And then we have a few more coming up yet in our disaster preparedness file. So looking at food. And then if you want to learn more about building that kit with the water and the food and stuff, definitely come to the March 30th. And my colleague, Jose Lamas, is on the webinar today, and he and some of his colleagues are teaching a few webinars in Spanish. The first one is on organizing important papers. So it's something similar today to what we've done today, but in Spanish. And then the March 25th one, I believe, is around budgeting and food costs. So please share these with others and attend if they interest you. We encourage you to get social with us as well. So check us out. We would love to have you join us on that. And then I'm going to back up just a couple slides right here. We do ask if you are able to participate or to complete a quick evaluation. And we'll get that link put in the chat here as well. This helps us document the value or the no value of these webinars, and it helps us with future planning as well. So we would appreciate that.
And I found the answer to the passport question on the travel state website. And it is, in most cases, you do receive your old canceled passport to you. It may be sent separately from your new one. And they recommend keeping your old passport in a safe place as it is considered proof of your US citizenship. If your old passport is linked to a valid visa, you can still use the visa. However, you must travel with both new and old passport in this case. And when you receive your new passport, the number on the document is different from your previous one.
All right, thanks for finding that, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
covered a lot of information today. We thank you for joining us. We'll be hanging out here. If folks have additional questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. And thank you so much.